I think one of the things I like about Bitcoin is the sense of it being digital cash. I personally feel that people in society need cash in the sense that, cash gives you a sense of flexibility. If I'm walking down the street and I want to make a quick purchase, cash it's got a sense of freedom about it. It's flexible, it's quick. I can tip a busker, I can quickly buy something. And in a world where we're increasingly moving away from physical cash towards more electronic transactions, you kind of start to need a digital equivalent of cash. And I think that's a really important role to play. But if you actually look, say, for example, cash in our current society, it probably only makes up, I guess, probably 3 to 5% of the money supply. I'm not sure if it's even that much. So it's actually quite a small part of the actual transactions that we do, but it is an incredibly psychologically important part of the transactions that we do. And without it, people would be very unhappy, I suspect. So Bitcoin can fulfill that role in a sort of, cashless world, kind of this digital version of this thing. That's a very positive thing. One of the most powerful things that Bitcoin has actually done, aside from all the sort of quibbles around, how it's designed and so on, it's just opened up the creative horizons of people. People have never really, certainly in our era, haven't previously thought that you could create your own currency. There's been times in the past when people have thought that. But in this generation, no. Now suddenly it's like, wow, I didn't actually know that. So one of the most important roles, regardless of whether it works or not, is just the sense that it's opened up this possibility. And as a secondary part of that, things other than currency as well. These other blockchain technologies. And this is a trend. You're starting to see a lot of people talk about this as an idea. So it's not just, it's a lot of people are thinking that. So once you've let that blockchain technology out, it's not like you can somehow put it back into Pandora's box. It's out there. The idea is there. So one of the interesting things about the internet, if you want to call it like the internet, is that it's there's a psychological discrepancy with it. We imagine it as being this somehow flat, free thing. And yet, who built all the infrastructure for the internet? Basically, it either comes from large-scale government telecommunications projects, or it's big corporate telecommunications. The actual infrastructure to create a gigantic network of computers is huge. And in a sense, that's the idea that somehow the internet should be free from gigantic powers is kind of naive because, well, it relies on a large number of huge powers to actually even exist in the first place. But it's kind of interesting how, in building this thing, societies had this imagination released that you could somehow transcend political entities and nation states. Which is interesting, because actually, governments, for example, can't now suddenly retract the internet and say, actually, you know what, now you can't have it anymore. Because actually people would rebel. For example, if you got used to email being incredibly fast, and then a government decided to say, actually, from now on, every single time you want to send an email, it's going to be stopped. It's going to take 20 minutes to get through. It's going to go through a quarantining process, much like if you're sending a letter to Greece, as I was saying earlier. It's gone too far now to be pulled back. People have got used to it. In a democracy, certainly, it's almost impossible for any politicians to now be like, we're going to start restricting an internet, because it'll be a massively unpopular thing. So in a sense, nation states have, in building the physical infrastructure that then creates the internet, has created this sort of quasi-transnational space. But at the same time, it's not somehow free from all the normal power structures that you find in nation states, including all the huge corporate interests, which are so linked up. Facebook's a classic example of this. It creates a gigantic information well, effectively. It creates a honeypot to suck people's information in. It asks people to give them information. And that's built on a profit-driven model of like, we want your information such that we can create a advertising platform that then we can, sell advertising to. Of course, in so doing this, we also happen to have created a gigantic information repository, which, the likes of the NSA can browse through should they wish. And there's a kind of dynamic interplay between the corporate world and the state, which has always existed, and it's never been separate. So I think the idea that somehow the internet is a human right and it's somehow supposed to transcend all these things is, that needs to be fought out. I mean, that's an ongoing battle people are trying to negotiate. So Bitcoin forms one part of that agenda. It's like, okay, we create a currency which somehow is non-corporate, non-state, but it's still relying on all this infrastructure that's run by corporates and states. So it's still on the back foot in that sense. But there's a lot of great potential there to create. But I don't expect that there's some quote unquote human right to a free internet. You have to construct rights in society via political battles, effectively.